With profound fondness, we remember our beloved alma mater, Thomas Carr Howe High School, and its system of associated elementary and junior high schools, each separate and distinct unto itself. Yet when students from each lower school arrived at Howe High School, we embraced our differences in celebratory fashion. Despite a few spontaneous but notable and unofficially sanctioned student conferences conducted after regular school hours out on the bridge, we were able to form many lifelong friendships, some of which we cherish and nurture to this day. The bridge wasn't the only venue for dispute resolution. Meet me on the tracks at 3:15 was a throwing down of the gauntlet not to be ignored. A university professor once said, when describing the memories, commonalities, and deep bonds shared by groups, countries, and cultures, our Howe High School family has been able to create the mystic cords of memory that bind us together as a people. That is a good description, for wherever we go and whatever we do, those mystic cords of memories deep within our hearts, while not often brought to the surface, they are always present in us. Like spokes connected to their axle, they connect us to our cherished alma mater Howe. Lost in thought while drinking a Coke from Styrian, or staring through foggy windows while seated comfortably inside a warm car during winter, we are attached to Howe High School like straight splintered shafts of light in varying lengths and intensities through a rainbow-like corona from the neighborhood streetlight. Reflecting on my days at Howe High School conjures up the memory of innumerable nights sleeping in that snug, upstairs Christian Park attic on Young Avenue, which had been converted into a dormer. I often would arise before school, sometimes hearing the trains rumbling down the tracks by Howe, bound for some unknown parts of the hinterland. I would peer from the east window under which I slept, feeling some vague sense of security or stability, if you will, when I would glimpse the Howe High School smokestack imposing itself against the eastern sunrise, arising from ground level Gibraltar-like, standing the test of time, like a true sentry holding vigil and maintaining his post. Nearby the Howe smokestack stood that old brick gymnasium we loved and proclaimed as our own. As an aspiring young percussionist, during home basketball games, I would focus less on the game and more on a genial-appearing upperclassman drummer named John Stickle. John effortlessly applied his trade, banging heartily on those skins, filling that cavernous gymnasium with a thunderous, unforgettable staccato beat. He supplemented an already cacophonous atmosphere with a discordant mixture of applause, hoots and howls, whistles, buzzers, and a few curses, which rose from the floor and the bleachers. Together they intertwined in corkscrew fashion like a noisome helix, rebounding off of every exposed surface of that hallowed hall. It is befitting to honor and pay tribute to the many wonderful Howe High School teachers who touched our lives, for teachers make a difference. One noble educator and purveyor of upright living helped to inspire my future as a teacher and to solidify my enjoyment of words and love of learning. During my years at Howe, I made the decision to enroll in Mr. Hal Tobin's etymology class. Etymology, of course, is the study of word roots, origins, and definitions. But Mr. Tobin taught our class something much greater than mere words. He taught us lifelong principles of honesty and wise decision-making. Mr. Tobin loved words, and his word power was formidable, as was his perfect military-like posture, clear voice, and commanding classroom presence. We students debated the veracity of the notion that Mr. Tobin possessed vast pugilistic skills, and that he once participated in the Mr. Indiana bodybuilding contest. Both allegations quite credible. On one occasion, many students were casually chatting in the hallway outside etymology class, ignoring the clock when the bell rang, signaling that class was beginning. This was a huge miscalculation, because with great aplomb, Mr. Tobin calmly stepped out into the corridor and shepherded his tardy students into the classroom. When everyone was seated and orderly, he stepped back into the classroom, still composed, but with his prior state of calmness quickly ebbing as he gave a quick kick to the green metal classroom trash can, not because of uncontrolled anger or frustration, but due to a sincere, genuine love and concern for us students. Mr. Tobin then launched into a classroom lesson which might be described in geopolitical terms as a domino theory. He explained that if we lack discipline, neglect minor rules, as in the case of hand, if we ignore the bell, we could next find ourselves hanging out on some wrong street corner with some wrong friends, soon ignoring more important rules and considerations, taking inappropriate risks, choosing to cut corners, and taking the easy way out in life. While to our young teenage way of thinking, Mr. Tobin's reaction seemed to be a somewhat draconian response to a minor infraction, I am confident that no student questioned his firm lecture was born out of a love for us, arising out of veritable concern for our welfare. It is also quite likely that he had previously witnessed students failing because of improper early decisions, which led into a downward spiral. Mr. Tobin had garnered our attention initially by sending the trash can hopping across the front of that normally serene, sedate Howe High School etymology classroom. I still can envision clearly that noisy steel can coming to rest in front of an audience of surprised, onlooking teenagers, rolling slightly back and forth, gently oscillating side to side, with its open top facing the classroom, like a large speaker atop an old Victrola phonograph. I almost hear it calling out still to a group of young Howe Hornets to do the right things in life, and assuring us that if we did, right things would follow.
As we entered Howe High School in 1967, we still maintained quite a bit of innocence. Although we were jolted just 4 years earlier by our president's assassination, and the Vietnam War was looming large, we still were shielded from so much world news. Remember, most of us only got 3 or 4 TV channels. Elvis and the Beatles were the music hits of the day. The girls loved London. Mary Quant, Yardleys, and Twiggy were the rage. Rock bands were as prolific in garages as they were on the billboards. Without cell phones or internet, our world was a lot more intimate then, yet at the same time more private. Families still ate dinner together every night for the most part. We teens camped on the household landline for hours with our friends, and reading, neighborhood sports, and drive-ins were our entertainment. The rocking chair theaters like the Carlisle were a super date night. Doing well in school was expected. Respect for teachers and administrators was unquestioned. Patriotism and recognition and praise of the Almighty, even in our public schools, was normal. Although we heard of racial unrest from time to time, we never experienced serious problems at TCHHS. All of us were just hornets. Most of us didn't realize how extremely fortunate we were during those years of 1967 through 1971, but now we smile in fond remembrance of how we operated as a smooth student body. Caring teachers and parents, excellent mentors, and solid leaders among our own ranks made the high school experience very enjoyable for most of us. A lot of maturing took place during those 4 years, and we left equipped with core values that served us well. We are grateful for the individuals, the events, and the atmosphere that we were privileged to experience. And even though we have a faster, vastly different world now, our children and grandchildren are benefactors of those values as we are now the mentors. As Esther was once reminded, who knows but what you have come to this royal position for such a time as this? May we all continue to fellowship with one another and be the outstanding citizens we were molded to be. Thank you, Howe High School, for the extended family we love.
In closing, we are grateful to all those who played a part in those amazing and formative years. We can never repay our Howe community, teachers, coaches, counselors, staff, and administrators, not only for their instruction of academics, but their role models of high character. We were all blessed with a safe place to form and foster our interests in varied life pursuits. Some chose to seek professions in the arts, some chose to serve our country's military for a handful of years, and yet others chose to serve for decades. Yet others chose to serve our community as public servants, and first responders. Many decided to pursue and achieve successful careers in medicine, and many others achieved successful business accomplishments. Still others became hardworking citizens supporting their families. And as important, many of us chose to become moms and dads. No matter the pursuits, I believe we were all better for being Howe Hornets. While in the last 50 years, our paths and experiences have taken us in many, many directions and to places far and wide. That said, we will forever and collectively share those memories, challenges, experiences, and most importantly, friendships. To Howe be honor and glory everlasting. Thank you for sharing this evening with our class of 71.